Theodore Roosevelt once said, "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena."
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.
Seize the day.
Whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. Who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause.
And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause.
You've got to get mad.
I mean plumb mad dog mean.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Who at best, if he wins, knows the thrills of high achievement. And if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
Hi, once again, everybody. I'm Ed Berliner. Welcome into another edition of The Man in the Arena. For so many years interviewing sports and news luminaries, I have a chance to talk to so many people who are, and I hate to use the word leaders. I like to use the word inspiring, because that's really what I've always looked for when it comes to specifically in athletes, those who inspire. Those who take tough situations, tough times, they turn it around, and at the end, you look at yourself and go, God, I wish I could be more like them. I wish I could get it, because they really have taken themselves and they have raised their game well past what anybody could have possibly imagined. It is with that thinking process that we begin this episode of The Man in the Arena, with not one, but two ladies who have taken their passion, their dreams, and their desires, and they truly have become inspirational.
Noelle was a star lacrosse player at Londonderry High School. She also played for Granite State Elite and got a scholarship to UMass Lowell, a Division I school. She was the leading scorer her freshman year.
I had very high hopes for what my future was going to be at UMass Lowell, and I was very excited for the future.
And then, disaster. In 2016, the summer before her sophomore year, Noelle, riding with a teammate, lost control of a moped on Martha's Vineyard and sideswiped a dump truck.
Everyone was rushing towards us, and I looked down and saw that my leg was gone. My leg was severed on the scene. And the only thing that I thought about, the first thing that jumped into my head was lacrosse.
Fearful she'd never play again. With three older brothers, sports made up her life, practically born with a ball in her hand.
I woke up to screams.
Femita Ayanbeku was 11 years old when she nearly died in 2003 on this highway in Stoughton. That's her cousin's car, and here's the guardrail. She and her sister were in the back without seatbelts.
When the car spun around, the doors opened and me and my sister flew out.
They landed on opposite sides of the road.
I was like, we should pray, because I think I'm gonna die.
Incredibly, everyone survived, but doctors had to amputate Femita's right leg below the knee to save her life.
Oh my gosh, I just want to say thank you so much.
Fast forward to 2015. Here's Femita, age 23, at this clinic in Boston. She just received her first running leg, custom fit and free from the Challenged Athletes Foundation.
And when I put that leg on, I'm like, I love this thing. I just need to learn how to use it.
Our new Center 5 camera was there that day when she took her first step. So was Jerome Singleton, an elite three-time Paralympian in track.
Oh man, that video means a lot to me, especially to see how far Femita has grown.
These are people of passion. These are ladies who are determined to succeed no matter what happens, and we get a chance to let them inspire us here today. And believe me, it's the kind of story that I'd love to tell. Let's introduce our guests. First of all, she was an outstanding Division I lacrosse player with UMass Lowell, and having been in Boston and New England for a number of years, I know that area very well, and I know the passion for sports at all these places. As the story told us, she lost her left leg in 2016. And then in the fall of 2019, she broke the U.S. women's record at the World Para-Athletes Championship in Dubai. Gee, that's not bad for a couple of years if you think about it. She is now training for the Tokyo Paralympics while also running the Born to Run Foundation, which takes people and inspires them as well. It is a pleasure to welcome Noelle Lambert into the Man in the Arena, wearing the Bruins cap. Congratulations. Or the Red Sox cap. Nicely done. See, I had to show you my Bruins. There you go. Hi, Noelle. Oh, we lost you again. We lost you again. I don't know what happened. You've muted yourself. Oh, she'll be back. Don't worry about it. She'll be back. We take care of all these things because that's what live television is all about. It's fine. It's wonderful. It's dandy. She'll be back. Life goes on. Trust me. I've done this before. See, when you've sort of been around in television for a long time, you have these things that happen and you go, don't worry about it. Shh, everything's going to be just fine. It'll all work out. Now let's see. Are you back?
Am I back?
Perfect. There you go. We got everything.
So
and you know something? In live television, people edit. Damn it, I'm not editing. That's why it's way too much fun. Thanks for joining us, Noelle.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, always got to rep the Boston Red Sox, Boston Bruins, everything.
You got to rep. Yeah, well, we'll get you in a Bruins cap next time. That's all right. I understand the whole Red Sox thing, so we'll get you there. So let's introduce our second guest here because, again, another incredible story. She graduated from American International College at 23. She was introduced to her first running blade, and then in June of 2016, the US Paralympic National Championships, she won the 100 meters, the fastest female amputee in the United States. Next up for her, of course, as well, the Rio Paralympics. She was the sixth fastest in the 200-meter sprint in the world at the Rio Paralympics, and she is now training for the Tokyo Paralympics. See, I like the fact that I've got Paralympians here before they become stars. That's even better. It means I'm way ahead of the game when it comes to all this. It is a pleasure to welcome Femita Ayanbeku to the show today. Femita, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Look at you. Look at you. Here we go now. And now everybody gets to style here at this point.
Yes. Okay. Yes. We're both in the same things from what we were wearing earlier in practice. We both haven't changed, so.
Got them right out of practice. And Femita, you just came because you train people, right? You're a personal trainer?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. You're coming to Florida now and you're going to train me because after 2 years of COVID and everything else that's going on, I need all the help I can get.
Oh, I'm sure.
Thanks. You're not supposed to say, oh, I'm sure. Well, it's been nice talking to you, Femita. Have a wonderful day. It's been really fun here. All right, serious. Let's get to it. A couple of things here. We started out by giving people a little background on the both of you and what has happened. So I'm going to open this up to whomever wants to take this first, because the single biggest question that so many people want to ask of people such as yourselves when it comes to such passion, such ability, such drive that you have. You both suffered terrible injuries, which changed the course of your life. How did you get through it, is what everybody would want to know. Who wants to go first?
Femita, you go.
It's like, people want to always give like the nice side of the story. But after my accident, 11, and it took me until I was 18 years old, honestly, to be actually really comfortable in my own skin. Just being an amputee, being a woman, going through those changes, it was difficult. But once I got that blood, I always tell people, I had my accident when I was a little, so I don't remember what it feels like to have 2 feet. But when I run, I feel like I have 2 feet. And I remember I told my proctor that, and she was like, when you walk, you don't feel like you have 2 feet? And I'm like, no, when I walk, I think about every step that I take. But when I run, my body is just so in sync and it's so fluid. Running has absolutely what has saved my whole positive being. It's given me a whole nother lifetime.
Well, you got saved by sport. I mean, that's what I find out with a lot of athletes who go through very tough times. Sport saves them in many ways. It sort of fills a little bit of the gap there, and then you kind of draw on that power, yes?
Exactly.
See, and that's what people, it's tough for people who are not athletes to understand that, because they've never really been in that situation before. Noelle, in comparison to that, you were older, of course, when your accident happened. And the same thing comes to you because you remember what it was like. I mean, my God, you are a brilliant athlete, and certainly when it came to lacrosse. So what was it to you then that drove you, that got you through the tough times?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to agree with Femita on that. I mean, having sports in my life is definitely what motivated me. And I think having that support system from my teammates and coaches at UMass Lowell and everything, that really was the sole reason why I never became completely depressed about it, is because I was always keeping myself very busy, and I always came up with small goals, and then always had the end goal that I wanted to return playing Division I lacrosse. And so having that in the back of my head, that always motivated me. And of course, I mean, there's always bad days, but having those people believing in you and never accepting the fact that you are an amputee and you should give up. They were never treating me as someone with a disability. They were always giving me or telling me that this is the reason why you need to be excelling and this is the reason why you need to be pushing through. So having that support system is 100% what really got me through it, and has really what got me through today. Because then, I mean, I always had mentors in my life. And I mean, transitioning over to a completely different sport, to going from lacrosse to track, I was alone at first, but then having Femita kind of take me under her wing and show me the ropes and just really getting me to where I need to be, I would not be here today without her. And so that's why I always say having mentors is like one of the biggest and most important things when you are striving for something and having different goals, because it really does get you to a place where you need to be.
You just brought something up which a lot of people don't talk about and a lot of the different bios don't talk about, and that's the fact that when you said that Femita helped you through this, because that's an interesting thing to discuss here. Femita, when you first met Noelle and there was that opportunity to become that mentor, what was that first synergy like in those first meetings when you started to get to know each other?
It was like hit it off right off the bat. I always tell people now, today, Noelle's like my little sister. She gets on my nerves, but I love her, and I would do anything. But like that video said, that day when I got that blade donated to me, Jerome was there, and he came up to me and he kind of pulled me under. So when I see Noelle and I'm like, hey, this is wants to try it, and somebody gave me that opportunity. So I honestly was really trying to pay it forward and do to her what track did for me, because I knew it changed my life, and I knew what being around other amputees and other people with physical disabilities did for me. So I'm like, I wanted to bring her into this world.
So Noelle, how much of a pain in the neck were you?
Oh, I still am to this day. I mean, I ask millions of questions every single day. I mean, in the beginning, I was 10 times more annoying because I was trying to make the team. And so I just kept asking all these questions like, when do you think I can get internationally classified? Like, when can I go to this event? And Femita is that type of person where she will not like go out of her way. Like, she lets everything come to her. Like, in a good way. Like, she doesn't stress about things that she shouldn't stress about. And that's honestly what has taught me. I mean, I'm still worrying about things. I still Google everything, but she just kind of taught me. She was like, Noelle, this is going to happen. If like God wants this to happen, it will happen. And just, I think just the most annoying part about me is I just always ask a million questions and I always want to know things. And that's just because I'm a very impatient person. But yeah, so in the beginning, it was just mostly that. And it was mostly just me asking Femita constantly this and that. When am I going to be able to do this? When am I going to be able to do that? So.
Okay, well, Femita, for whatever reason, she put up her hand, put up her finger, and now she's disappeared.
Yeah,
I'll bet you, because she's on her phone in her car, I'll bet you somebody just called in on the car or something and she went to answer it and done something. That's what happens. So it's don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll get her back. But I wanted to go back to something that I was starting to talk about here a little bit, and I wanted to get into. And Femita is back. She'll join us here momentarily, I guess. Femita, we still can't see you, so we'll let you know when you come in here. There's that need where you have to convince people that what happens to you is no big deal. I mean, that's the whole thing, because people are always, I don't want to say sometimes oversympathetic, but sometimes they'll look and there'll be that moment where you'll know when they look at your leg and you know what they want to say. And that's tough. What do you do in a situation like that? And how do you get to people and say, honestly, trust me, I got this. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, like I totally understand people looking at you and automatically thinking that you're broken just because you're different. But I mean, something that I always say is I'm actually grateful for my accident just because it really has gotten me where I needed to be in my life, and it really has just kind of shifted my mentality and like what makes life important. But I mean, I just want to, that's why me and Femita do a lot of what we do, and like with our own foundations and giving back to others, and just always portraying that image out there that we don't feel like we're broken. We don't feel like we're disabled. And honestly, like we're just going to prove to people that we're not. So it really is tough when they automatically say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry this happened to you." But for me, like, I know for me, it's the same way. It really is to the point where like, we want to say we're doing a lot better than you think, or we might be doing a lot better than you right now because we're living our lives the way that we want to live it. And we're not using our disability as excuses.
Femita, I want to get you into this as well, because a question that I asked Noelle while you took a break and went out and got a beer.
No, my mom called. I don't know why people do that. She called me twice. And I was trying to ignore the call. I'm like, if you call the first time and I don't answer, it's not smart to call again right after. But I wanted to say,
Mom, I'm busy. I'm on TV, Mom.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I was saying that she was annoying because of all the questions, but she should know by now the most annoying thing about her is when we go to international competitions and she tries to go to the Cheesecake Factory.
Yes, that's also very annoying that I do. I love chain restaurants. Femita hates chain restaurants. I mean,
Ladies and gentlemen, Noelle Lambert actually entered the Paralympics today, and she was a fine-looking athlete, and suddenly, all of a sudden, after 24 hours, the woman came out. She was 6,000 pounds, and she was loaded with cheesecake.
Love the Cheesecake Factory. I would die for the Cheesecake Factory.
You're in training. You're not allowed to have cheesecake. Don't you know that? Okay.
Listen.
Femita, I want you to answer this also because I asked Noelle this. And this was part of the question about the way people perceive para-athletes and people. And it's funny because, Noelle, you use the term broken, which I think is what a lot of people believe you are. I mean, they believe Paralympians and people who have issues are broken. And Femita, what I asked Noelle is, how do you tell people, how do you convince them, hey, I get it. And when they look and you know what they're thinking, how do you tell them it's no big deal?
I like to just take my leg off and just make it a thing where it's like, yeah, it comes off. Like, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I used to be offended when people would look at me and feel those types of ways, but I try to like really tap into like my old self and think, okay, what would I do if I seen somebody that looked like myself? And I can understand sometimes like people are confused, people don't see it too often. And I think that's more of like a media thing and a more like familiarity thing where people just aren't seeing amputees, so they don't know how to perceive us. They don't know if we're hurting or if we're okay or if, you know, whatever type of day it is. So I try to be more understanding in that sense, but it's just frustrating that people just aren't more aware about amputees and like where we come from and those types of things. I have people that think I'm a veteran all the time. It's like the most annoying thing. Okay. And no shade to the veterans because that's how they lost their legs. But it's like people are born without limbs. People get into accidents. There's so many other ways that people can lose their legs. And it's just like this one idea. If you don't have a leg or if you're missing a limb, you're a veteran. And it's like, give some respect to my story. You know, I came from something. I went through something. Yeah, I didn't go fight across the country, but I went through something. And that's why I'm here today. But people, it's just a misconception, I think, about people not knowing.
Which is, I think part and parcel, I mean, you brought the media into it, and maybe that is part of it as well, because the only stories that America many times hears are those of veterans who come back from the wars and those who have these sort of injuries. And I think, I'm going to guess that the two of you would agree with me that it is only in the last decade, maybe, that Paralympians have received the credit that they deserve and the attention that they deserve. Because finally, again, it's the media, but it's also sponsors, it's also a million things that are involved in all of this. They have to understand. Running 100 meters is difficult itself, but doing it with a limb that's not yours? I mean, honestly, that's astounding is what it takes to do that. So would you both agree that it's finally time that Paralympians need to get their cred, if you will, and people need to pay more attention to it as being a real athletic event that needs the attention because of what people are doing, what you're doing in it, yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I wouldn't even say the last 10 years. I'd probably say the last 2 years, because even when I went to, we weren't getting the same attention or even the same respect. You know, I had people that don't know the difference between the Paralympics and the Special Olympics. And that's a big deal. But I think just even over these last couple of years, even for that football during the Super Bowl, that commercial that came on with the Paralympic swimmer, everybody was talking about it and saying it was inspiration porn. And it's like, no, this is a girl that's an amazing swimmer and she just happens to have one leg. But the story goes and it starts off with there's this one-legged swimmer. Instead of being a great swimmer with one leg, she's a one-legged swimmer. And that's where the story needs to change. We are great athletes. We are great runners. And we don't have to be the one-legged runners. I can be the runner with one leg. That's fine. That still defines me. But that our disabilities come first, and it shouldn't.
You agree, Noelle?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that like everybody thinks that we're performing at the highest level for amputees or people with disabilities, but there are people performing at the highest level that a lot of people who are able-bodied, they are better athletes. And it's just, I mean, not me personally, Femita maybe, but it's just crazy. It's crazy that that's where we are. And then you get on the other hand, like people who are disabled and who are amputees and have blades. And then if they were to ever beat somebody who are able-bodied, then it's people saying, okay, well, we're cheating because we have blades and we have basically springs in our foot. And that's honestly not the way it works. And it's crazy because that's what everybody goes to and that's what everybody thinks, but you never know. And like, I mean, it's 10 times harder for us to go to practice every single day because we do have one less leg or because we are disabled, and we are still continuing to put in the work and everything. I mean, me personally, I came into the Paralympics only a year and a half ago. So everything that Femita and all the other athletes have had to deal with these last 4 years, these last 10 years, their whole lives, I definitely feel for them. So I can't really speak on, I mean, going to Rio and experiencing the fact that they weren't treated correctly, but I mean, it's amazing to see how the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee are now taking the right steps and are now getting us to be paid just as much as Olympians get paid and things like that. And I think it's definitely people like Femita that have that voice that are showing people that this is where we need to be. So I'm grateful to be a part of the movement, but I really can't take any credit.
Well, you touched on a couple of things there that, wow, we're going to open up a real Pandora's box here for a moment. But let's go ahead and open it up because you are both professionals at what you do. And there is a huge push right now across the board to make sure that there is a gender equity in sport and that women and men are paid equally for the sweat, the toil, the work that they do, the effort that they put into. Do the two of you, and Noelle, I'll start with you on this because you brought it up, do you see the United States Olympic Committee and the Paralympic committees, do you see them finally getting to this point where they're going to do something and make it equitable for everybody? Or is this still a fight that has to be taken up?
I mean, I think it's definitely still a fight because there's definitely more that we can still be doing, but I think they are making the correct steps. And I mean, we have great people on the United States Olympic soccer team and such that are, I mean, creating the voice for us, and all the people who are able to have that platform on their social medias where they can speak up. And then, so that's definitely taking the right movements for that. But always there's always something more that you can be done. I mean, I know that for a lot of other sports, I mean, women don't get paid as much as men do. So that's definitely something that I feel is not right, and not something that that is something that needs to be addressed, and is something that needs to change, because we are putting in just the amount of hard work and sweat. And it's crazy because I actually did see something that this WNBA player, it was the same statistics she had as LeBron James.
Yeah, it's Sue
And
Bird.
I kid you not, like, she wasn't even a millionaire in anything that she was doing. And every single stat that he had, I swear to God, it was identical. So stuff like that definitely needs to be changed. And just because we don't have the same following, or a lot of women's sports don't have the following, it doesn't matter. Give these women what they are worth.
Femita, is there more of a following? Do you see that growing, or is it still in the embryonic stages?
For Paralympics?
For as that popularity that Noelle was talking about, that following of women athletes and women Paralympics, do you still see that needing growth? Is it still at that low level that needs to come up, and that we need to generate that?
I think when it comes, we're fighting two battles right now. And I think our most important battle is physical equity, where we are treated the same as our Olympic counterparts. So I want to fight the fight for women, but we got to fight the fight for being just treated equal as our counterparts first. Once we get that equal, then we can fight the battle for women. But it's like, it's so hard because we're literally under two rocks right now. But I think definitely, even with the Paralympics in general, this year is going to be history, with NBC having the most coverage that it's ever had in all the years of Olympics. So that is a great step in the right direction. And I think that will help us in the financial industry, in terms of us making the same amount of money as our counterparts. But then once we start making the same amount of money, if I'm making the same amount of money as a Olympian woman, I won't be that mad. But then we'll get to the struggle of, okay, now I need to make the same amount of money as a Paralympic man. Then that's the other battle that we have to
and I think there's something that you're bringing up here that needs to be talked about here. It's not, because some people will answer back and they'll go, oh, all you're talking is money, 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 money. Wait a minute, stop right there. This is not a fight about the money. This is a fight about what's right in many ways. Because, look, nobody gets rich off this. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden there's multi-billionaires, maybe a few of them sitting out there occasionally, the Michael Phelps and others. But it's a matter of being able to survive and subsist, because you're out there training. And Noelle, what I know that you're both training for the Paralympics. So you're both putting in that effort to represent the United States of America at a chance for the world to sit and watch. Well, if that's the case, then the United States has got to stand behind you, because you're their representative. Doesn't make a difference whether you're male, female, whether you have a left leg, whether you have two legs, makes no difference. So isn't that really what it's all about? It's not about give me millions, but make it real, make it equitable. Yes?
Exactly. Yeah. Just making us have the same attention as all the Olympians and all the Olympic athletes. Just having that same equal opportunity is amazing.
Let's talk about training, because I mentioned that. By the way, you talked about the blade earlier, and I want to get back to the blade because that's interesting. But I want to talk about training, because here we are coming off, look, the worst year of everybody's life. I mean, let's go ahead and face it. Maybe more than that for many people. It has been a tragic year in America for so many people and around the world. And it has been difficult for us all to basically keep ourselves going at what we would hope would be a normal level. While the rest of us are just doing things like our day-to-day, there are people who are dealing with the deaths of family members and sickness and so many other things that are affecting us. But on top of all that, you're training to go represent the United States at a time when it's got to be hellaciously difficult in order to do that, with all of the various issues that have gone on, and especially in New England, where for a time it was disastrous in New England, and everything was shut down. So, Femita, to you first, what has it been like for you in training and trying to keep your spirits high during this whole COVID-19 era? That is difficult as hell.
Yeah. I actually had this conversation. It was funny, but as a Paralympic athlete, we've just learned to adjust and adapt. So we had to just figure out any type of cross training that we could, but being who we are, I think we're more adaptable than most people. And it's like, okay, I can't go to the track. I'm going to figure something else out. And so that's kind of what we had to do. We had to get really creative and just try to stay in shape for the most part. Staying in shape was hard, which is why I was telling you that it's okay that the year went by and you need some help, because it was definitely a hard year. But as professionals, we have to get the work done no matter what. And so we just had to get creative, running on side streets, running in the backyard, lifting up my stepson for weights. That was the kind of stuff I was doing just to stay in shape and just kind of hold through until things started to open up again.
Noelle, what's been the toughest part for you staying in shape and training?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, the toughest part was training by myself and was trying to actually motivate myself, because at practice, it's really easy because I have Femita and I have her to motivate me. But then doing stuff on my own is something that I definitely had to learn within myself, because I mean, when I was in college, like even before and after my accident, I was that type of person that, like, if you aren't physically there telling me what to do, I'm not going to do it. And ever since starting to train with Femita and our coach, I mean, just both of their mentalities and getting things done. Like, I kid you not, I cannot go to the track by myself and not do a warm-up lap and a cool down lap. Like, I have to do it. And that's because I have Femita in my head saying, you need to do this. And it's crazy because the type of person I was before, I wouldn't have done it. I would have just done the workout and then would have left. About getting that was really great for me, but also it was annoying because every day I'm like, all right, I have to do something. And if I can't go to the track today, I still have to do some different type of workout. So, I mean, I would just definitely say the biggest and the most difficult part was training by myself and finding that motivation and inspiration. But just like Femita said, we are very used to being adaptive and changing our whole entire lives and having things change in the blink of a second. So having that kind of be conditioning us to where we are now, I think that definitely played a part. But then when we returned practicing in June and we were able to actually go outside and still be very safe, I honestly, for me, I'm very grateful for the extra year. I know that there are so many people who train 4 years for this very event, but for me personally, it gave me a whole extra year to get better and to work on the things that I wasn't great at. And so now, a year later, I'm feeling like in a much better place than I was right before Tokyo 2020. So it's crazy to think that way, but I know Femita would say the same exact thing. You adapt, and then you accept that you have a whole other year to train and get better.
How frightened are either one of you when it comes to knowing that you're going to be overseas? There is still COVID-19 in the air, and that foreign countries are simply not inoculated as well as America is attempting to be. So isn't there a little fear about where you're going and what you're walking into?
I know that a little bit, but I know that the United States are doing a great job at keeping us safe, making us feel safe. So they're going to take every single precaution. Me personally, I actually left the country in January because I went to the Bahamas, but it was great to see everything that they went through with COVID and all the different precautions that they were taking. I mean, I had to take like 3 different COVID tests, and then I had to get a travel visa. So I felt very safe in the Bahamas. So that gives me hope for Tokyo, because Tokyo is above and beyond in everything. So
there you go, Femita. She snuck out. Look at that. She had to sneak out and get a little sun. There you go.
I think I told Femita and my coach that I was leaving. I told Femita, but I think I told my coach maybe a week before. I was like, yeah, I'm going to the Bahamas. It was my birthday. I needed to get out. I needed to get away.
And I'm looking,
dangerous.
and look at Femita. She's right there going, "Okay, girl, that's what you want
See,
to do."
Femita, this is why Femita's my big sister. She's the one that she tells me how it is, and then she makes everything seem like this is the right thing to do, Noelle, and you're not doing the right thing. I'm like, I know, I need to go out, I need to get tan.
It's all about it. Hey, trust me, everybody, if you haven't lived in New England in January, you'll go for a tanning booth at that point. You'll go for a light somewhere, anything to get a tan at that time of year personally. Now, I want to go back because we both talked a little bit about the competitive side of things. And I think it was Noelle, you talked about the blade. The blade to me is one of the most fascinating things I have ever seen in sport, simply because of what it is. And there are those people who will say, and I'm sure you've heard this before, that they will say that, oh, the blade certainly gives you an advantage because it has the flexibility to it. It gives you more than the standard foot or the standard leg would. And I'm watching Femita because she's there nodding her head on this as well. So if you would talk about that for a minute, Femita, is there the advantages of what it is? Because I'm not I don't do physics. I just talk about it on TV is all. But it would seem that it has to be some sort of an advantage.
Yes. So if you just think about it simply, right? Even if the blade was an advantage, let's say even if the blade was like this super powerful thing, right? In order for my body to move, the other side has to match. So if this blade is going 1,000,000 miles per hour, this side has to be able to keep up. So if this side isn't as fast as that blade, there's no way it could help me go faster than what my body is already capable of. Right? So that already just shuts it down. But I think what a lot of people see, and I think a lot of people's examples, is from Oscar Pistorius. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Yes. So I think a lot of people's mind comes from that, because when he was going and trying to compete, and competing in the Olympics, that whole advantage, that's where I think it's more understandable for people to not understand, because there's two blades and you just have two springs working off of each other. But at the same time, the power in the legs still have to be there, and the endurance still has to be there, and the ability to move still has to be there. But I think it's more of a double amputee issue than it could be for a single amputee. And I wish people could just understand that and make sense of it a little bit more.
Well, yeah, see, and again, this is a physics question more than anything else, but if you think about it, you have a natural leg on one side, you have a half of a natural leg on the other side with this prosthetic. Your brain is the biggest issue, because your brain is the one who's going, here's two legs, but it's not. It's a leg and a half, and it's something else. The compensation factor on that has got to be something that in and of itself you've got to train for, because otherwise I could see you probably at the beginning doing this, yes?
Mm-hmm. Exactly that. And it takes a lot more energy out of, so there's all the science behind it. And I wish people would look into it more before they say things like that. But for me to take one step, it's like I have to exert 1,000% more energy than you would having to take one step with your regular leg, so that is the idea behind it too, that people don't understand. But exactly like you said, they have to match, and it's harder to make two different legs match than it is to have two of the same. So as a traditional athlete, you have two of the same legs. As a double amputee, you have two of the same legs. Here we are working with two different legs. I have a spring on one side and a toe on the other side. That takes a lot.
So, and Noelle, I'm going to assume, which is always bad, that's why I asked the question instead of just making the statement, that for Femita, things happened early in life. So for her to make the adjustment was a little bit easier, because she certainly had to grow with it. This happened to you later in life as a young adult, and I have to believe that there were moments when you were getting used to the blade and getting used to it, where that had to be one of the most toughest athletic, physical things you've ever done. And let's not forget the mental part of it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was returning to try to play Division I lacrosse again, I had to be so versatile and be able to shift my speed and change direction and be very quick. And so that was one of the most difficult parts because I'm cutting and on my left side I don't have a knee or a foot. And so I'm looking at everybody else and watching them cut and they have to use their knees to play lacrosse and stuff like that. So that was definitely one of the most challenging parts. And that's what made me doubt it a lot, was because I have a mechanical knee that should be and I needed to be as quick as everybody else in the field. And that is why my prosthetist, who's also an above knee amputee, told me when I told him that I wanted to return playing lacrosse, that he really didn't think I was going to be able to, because his son played lacrosse and he was an amputee and he knew exactly what I was doing, what I was going through. So just in the beginning and just having that doubt like in the back of my head, because I didn't listen to anybody. Like when people told me that, I was like, yeah, whatever. But when he said
why does that not surprise me in the least?
Yeah, I mean, but when he told me, I mean, it really stuck with me because I mean, he's the same as me. He's an amputee. He knows what I'm going through. But I mean, it's just something. I mean, me personally, if you tell me I can't do something, it's just gonna make me mad. It's just gonna make me want to prove you wrong, because I have 3 older brothers, and that's basically been my entire life. So returning to play, yeah, just like you said, the physical part was very difficult. But the mental part, I would say, was just as tough, because it's doubting yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to be able to do it. And that is like one of the biggest battles. So going through all of that, but it's crazy, like you said, like people find an excuse for everything. Like when I did return playing lacrosse, and people did, and my video got posted like on ESPN, and I wasn't gonna even try to read the comments because I knew what they were gonna be. And I kid you not, everyone was commenting saying, yeah, well, she had like a blade. It's a lot easier for her. It's definitely not as difficult.
Wait a minute, how much did that hurt?
I didn't care. I don't care what people think. My mother, on the other hand, I kid you not, read every single one of those 10,000 comments, and she's just trying to comment back. I'm like, Mom, there's always going to be that one person or the multiple people on social media that are always going to want to tear you down, and with whatever you do. So it's just stuff like that. Oh my God, I'm running. That was my first run test ever with my running blade, and I look gross. So don't show Femita that.
No, show it. It shows how far you've come. And I got to believe that when you said you wanted to go back to playing lacrosse, you brushed on this briefly, that, come on, there had to be a coach or someone there who said, look, Noelle, I get it, but come on. It's there are doubters there, and I have to believe that they're still there, and they were there for you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was telling my head coach, I was like, yeah, I'm going to return playing. And like I could see it in her eyes. Like she never wanted to tell me no. And I mean, like I'm truly grateful for that. But I knew that she didn't think like that it would be possible. She actually admitted that. She was like, Noelle, like when I did return, she's like, Noelle, I really didn't think we would ever get to this point. I thought the day you would play would be your last game, and I would just throw you in there for a couple minutes. But on the other hand, my assistant coach was the one that literally, I kid you not, every single day before and after practice, kicking my butt, like not accepting the fact that I'm an amputee. That is what honestly got me to the point where I needed to play again. And I mean, I never wanted to put that pressure on my head coach, because she's running a program. She can't be thinking about me. I can't be selfish and asking her millions of questions. But my junior year, when I was practicing and I was returning to play again, she like pulled me to the side and she admitted, she was like, Noelle, I'm looking at you right now, and we're playing lacrosse, and I can't even tell that you have a prosthetic foot or anything like that. So, I mean, that was really cool. But yeah, you always have those doubters. But I mean, I've never personally had people come up to me other than my prosthetist saying that they didn't think I'd be able to play Division I lacrosse. But I knew in the back of their head that they didn't believe what they were actually saying. So getting to prove them wrong was really nice.
Femita, how did you deal with the doubters?
All my doubters came after I was actually in Rio, because everybody was like, well, after I won the 100 meters in the US, because when I first started, I had only been training for like 6.5 months. And I was honestly one of my biggest doubters. When my coach told me I had to go down to trials, I'm like, I don't know what this guy is thinking. I just started running. I'm not even going to be able to, like, I was so upset. And I ran the 200-meter race on the first day, and I ended up coming in second, and I was so upset, and I'm like, I knew I wasn't gonna win. And then the next day I ended up winning the 100 meters, and it was just crazy because all of the girls there, they were so upset. Like, everybody knew that I was this newbie coming in, and I had only been running. Everybody knew that I just got that blade donated to me, so nobody was really expecting anything out of me, and I really didn't expect anything out of myself. And then it happened, and I won, and I was like, oh. And then everybody just kind of had to shut up after that.
That's what you love. It doesn't make a difference to any athlete I've ever talked to. It's where they always go, and the young athletes go, as soon as I won, I told them, you want like this. Zip, zip, that's it. That's it. Don't say a word. I won. That's always it.
Exactly.
Which brings us into the two of you both have foundations, and the two of you are always in front of others, in front of young girls, young boys, people who are amputees, double amputees, people who have had it very difficult in life. And I started the show by talking a little bit about what I like to call I'm very much into inspiration when it comes down to athletes specifically. The two of you are seen as inspirations. Let's face it. That's a lot to deal with if you think about it. That's a heavy rock to walk around with for some people, because when they see you run, when they see you train, when they watch you, you know that there's always people who are waiting for you to stumble. That's the way people are. They're evil in a lot of ways, but there's other people going, God, I hope she makes it. God, win the race. God. And it's just, and it energizes them. So, Noelle, to you first, how do you carry that, knowing that every time you step onto the track now, when you step out to play lacrosse, whatever, you are an inspiration, and you carry that with you whether you like it or not?
Yeah, I mean, you can never personally call yourself an inspiration. I mean, you can never look at I mean, me personally, I can never look at myself like that. It's too weird to think. But at the end of the day, people always ask me like why I do it and everything. I'm doing it to this point at this point to show others who maybe go through similar situations, who are amputees or who are just having a bad day, that if I can overcome something like this, that then so can they. And that's just been my biggest message that I want to portray out to the world, is that just because something like this happens to you, just because you're an amputee, it doesn't mean you're broken. And with whatever you do in life, taking that heart and that dedication and using it as motivation to succeed into whatever you do, it doesn't matter what you do in life, as long as you have that mentality, then you're 100% a winner and you're 100% an inspiration. So I just always, if I'm ever having a bad day, or if I ever like I'm not motivated to do something, I think that in the back of my head, that I'm doing this for other people so that they can get into their heads that if they fail at something, it's not because they're disabled, it's not because they're an amputee or anything like that. It's because you don't believe in yourself, and that's 100% something that you can change. So yeah, that's honestly how I see it. It's crazy because I will never say like I'm an inspiration, because it's just, I mean, I'm sure Femita will say the same thing. It's just weird. It's a weird brag.
Well, you don't say it to yourself, but Femita certainly, certainly you have to know that it's there, but you have bad days. I mean, look, every athlete has a bad day. You're going to have a bad training day. You're going to fall. Something's going to happen, and you're going to do it in front of other people sometimes. And I've interviewed thousands of athletes over my career, and a lot of them talk about failure. And they talk about, I've had some athletes tell me that when I fail, I then am inspiring to people, because at the same time, I got to pick myself up and I've got to go back and do it again. So isn't that something that is always in the back of your mind, Femita, is that sure, stuff is going to happen. I'm going to have a bad day, but damn it, I got to pick myself up because people are watching, and in a way, they're counting on me.
Yeah. I won't call myself an inspiration, but I know that I am. And I was taking one of my clients for a run the other day. I was in front of her trying to pace her to get her to run faster. And I swear at least like 5 or 6 cars drove by us. And every time they drove by me, they'd beep their horn, they'd do like this. and then they drive by my client and not pay her any mind. And I'm like, oh man, like this is the person that actually needs you guys to be telling her, go ahead, going and do all those things, because I'm here trying to inspire her and get her motivated and do all those things. So when I feel like people look at me and they're like, oh, you know, like this girl's a runner, or this girl works out really well, or this girl does this, I like that idea, because I wake up and I do this for myself. I'm not doing this to impress anybody. I'm not running to get any praise from anybody. I run because I love to run. But I love the fact that I can do what I love and inspire other people at the same time. Like, I don't have to wake up and try. I wake up and I do what makes me great, and that inspires other people to feel like, you know what? I should just be able to wake up and do that too. Like, I don't think about nobody when I work out. I don't think about nobody when I'm running. All I'm thinking about is myself. Sounding very selfish right now.
Good for you. Absolutely.
But it's like, I love
that's
that.
what you need to think about when you run track. That's what you need to think about.
Well, yeah. Well, let's think about that, because when you're out there training, it doesn't. If you're a world-class athlete, and if you're out there training and you're thinking about, gee, I've got to make sure that I go catch episode 5 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier tomorrow, because if I don't, I'm going to be out of line, or I've got to go hit Netflix, or I've got to go listen to this music. Something's wrong at that point. Right. If you're not focused on yourself at all times, if you're not being a little selfish, the best athletes I've ever met in my life are selfish at that moment, because that's what you have to do. Otherwise, you lose the edge. And if you lose the edge, then you lose the race.
Yeah.
See?
That's right.
So, speaking of which, before I let you go, a couple of real quick things. How are the both of you doing? And I'll start with you on this one, Femita. How are you doing in your run-up getting ready for the Paralympics?
Ooh, I'm doing
good.
She's feeling good. Every day at practice, Foodie is like, oh, I can't wait to compete. I'm feeling good.
So you're on track.
You got
Everything's
me
good.
on the other hand, yeah. And then you got me on the other hand just complaining, like, when's the workout over?
Wait a minute. Does she really complain about it when the workout's over?
Noelle.
I complain about the. Go ahead, Femita.
Cocktail hour.
Always ready to be done, but she busts her butt. That's why she's always ready to be done. Me, I could work out until I pass out, but Noelle, she wants to go hard and go home.
I get that.
Absolutely.
You know, believe me, that's the one line that's kind of got through this whole interview here.
Yeah.
We kind of understand all that. So then, Noelle, are you on track?
She was talking about her client and how she was running in front of her. That's literally my life. Like, every time you do a warm-up lap, a cool-down lap, Femita is like 300 yards ahead of me. And I'm just like, I'm going at my own pace. And there are some days she's like, all right, Noelle, we're going to sprint. We're going to like actually run this lap. Like, we're going to be very quick. And I'm like, no, can't. And then I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then halfway through, she's gone. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to let her go. Let her do her own thing. And I mean, that's my inspiration. That's honestly what I say. I'm like, it is a pleasure to get my ass kicked by Femita every single day.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you've never known really true, honest, world-class athletes before, understand what Noelle just said there. There's nothing better than getting your ass kicked by the person that you're working with. That's the badge of honor right there, every single time.
Privilege.
So who's bringing home gold?
Femita. You see how Noelle be? Noelle don't know. Noelle be real modest about herself, and she loves to tell people how I'm ahead of her when we run. But she is very fast for her category. She's above the knee. I'm below the knee. So she knows I'm just always going to be in front of her. But it's literally like the cat chasing the mouse. I always want her to be behind me, but stay right up behind me. And she does very well at that. So she tells people I'm in front of her.
Okay, now.
No, but Femita would kick my ass with 2 legs. That's what people need to know. Like, Femita's not just beating me because she has a knee. Femita would 100% beat me if I was in the best shape of my life with 2 legs.
She being modest? Yeah. Come on.
I swear to God, I always said I wanted to bring her to lacrosse practice so she could compete against everybody else in the team, because she would 100% win.
Okay, I think Femita might have frozen on us. We'll have to find out, but I'll don't worry, Femita. We got you here. And if you did freeze, I'm going to bring you back, because I got one more that I got to bring you in for, because here's the big kicker, the big one. Both of you have grown up in New England. Could anything be better than being a sports fan in New England? Anything in life?
Absolutely not. Live free or die. Patriots, Celtics, Bruins, Red Sox. Revolution. Femita, on the other hand, like, I mean, she just isn't, she's not a huge Patriots fan like I am. And she's just not living and breathing Boston sports.
Well, yeah,
but
come on. You're a Brady fan. Big deal. Everybody's a Brady fan in New England. That's not a big deal. Look, I'm a hockey guy. Why don't you be a Pasternak fan? Pasta's sad if you not be his fan. Come on. You're Bergeron fan.
I will watch I love Bergeron. I love Marchand. I love all the OG Bruins players. It's just, I can only watch hockey in the playoffs because it gives me a heart attack every single time I watch it. So for my own blood pressure, I just need to reel it in.
I'm totally with you. As we're doing this interview live, and the Bruins right now, I want to throw myself into a wood chipper every night. It's like, with how they're killing me all the time. I guess, wait a minute. Okay, I'm glad Femita's coming back because I want to make sure we get her in here because I'm not going to quite let this go. Let's make sure you're both here. Okay, you're back. Was that
okay,
Mom
wait,
calling?
Femita, I just had to say, when you...
We lost you. Now you're muted.
All
now
right,
we
Femita,
can't hear you.
I just wanted to say one quick thing.
Really? Yes.
One quick thing, yeah. When you left, I said that you could kick my butt with 2 legs. If I had 2 legs, so I'm just giving you that praise.
Okay, well, no, see, but I'm not gonna hold on. I'm gonna give you another chance. I'm gonna bring you back in. Come on in. Do your phone again, and we'll take care of this, and we'll bring her back because she needs. I could tell on her face there's that incredulity where she's going, "What? What'd she say? What'd you say? Did you say that about me? I'm gonna answer that."
No, that's not something new. Like every time. I always like to bring people to practice with me sometimes. And I'm always like, I want you to compete against Femita because I know that she will 100% beat you.
Yeah, Noelle loves to do that.
So, by the way, Femita, I had to ask you because Noelle already went off on her rant about loving Tom Brady, which, of course, everybody does. For God's sake, will you please? The guy's 147 years old. Will you get over it, please?
He signed my prosthetic, so I have to love him.
So, Femita, as I mentioned, there's nothing better than growing up in New England and being a sports fan. So where do your passions lie? I mean, obviously, Noelle's a Patriots fan and a Red Sox fan. Those are her 2 big ones. Where do your passions lie?
I was a Celtics fan, and then they lost me. But basketball is probably...
What do you mean they lost you?
They lost me like a couple years ago, and... I'm coming back to them. I'm coming back.
Okay.
But they lost me.
They're not doing that well this year, so it's hard to come back to.
I'm coming back now. It's like the underdog like moment for them. They're not doing well, but they'll come back stronger.
I kind of like the stop motion that Femita's into right now because it's really doing well with the whole look right now. Because your phone's kind of giving us this. It's perfect. I'm going to make some screenshots of that, and I'm going to send that off to Kim and everybody to make sure they have it. There it is. It's kind of like
yes, perfect.
She's just doing the heavy vogue, which is a really old reference, and neither one of you should get it because I'm way too old. So I want to make sure that we get a couple of things in here, first of all, because I want to make sure that everybody knows the different things that you are both involved in. Noelle's foundation is the Born to Run Foundation. It is at theborntorunfoundation.org. If you want to get a hold of him on Twitter, it's theborn2runfo1 is there as well. Make sure that you get involved and you get it and you sign up. Social media for Noelle, Facebook at Noelle Lambert. Instagram at Noelle Lambert. Gee, it's tough to figure out. And Twitter, as I mentioned, it's theborntorunfo1. So you make sure to get her there. Femita is involved in the Limitless, I love the name, Limitless Creations, where she is the president and founder. You can find that on her website at FemitaAyanbeku.com. And also, don't worry about it, I got all the social media here as well. I got everything. We're just prepped for all this. Twitter is at Paramita0630. Instagram is at Femita Ayanbeku. And Facebook, for whatever reason, just go onto Facebook, search her out, because as I told her, I said, there's like 27,000 numbers across on it right now, which we're gonna get fixed. But if you go there, find it, friend her, and be part of it, because you get to be here. Ladies, I have to tell you something. I meant this sincerely when I started this interview. I have been doing this for God knows how long, way too long. But when I get a chance to tell stories with an inspiration, with fun behind it, with competitors behind it, with people who are really involved in what they do and love what they do, it is the best part of my day, hands down. And I want to make sure that everybody make sure that you spend the time and watch the Paralympics, watch the competitions this year, because America's bringing home medals. And these are two of the ladies that are bringing home medals. I have no doubt about it. We're going to have you back on after everything is all done. And what I want is, I want holding medals. That's what I want. Wait a minute, where'd it go? There's my, because I want you to be just like my Junior Stanley Cup. I want you to have the medals dangling from the cup so that everybody can see it. I just had to get my cup in there just one time.
Not true.
Ladies, Femita, thank you so much, and really continued success. Noelle, thank you so much. Continued success to the both of you. We'll talk again. Please be healthy, be well, and go kick some ass.
Yeah, thank you.
How's that? I had to make sure to get in there. Thanks so much.
Great.
All right. Make sure that you pay attention to the Paralympics. Make sure you watch us on YouTube. Make sure you download us and watch the episode again and share it along the line. It's a pleasure to be with people like this. Thanks to Femita. Thanks to Noelle. Thanks to Blue Sky for putting this all together. And thank you very much. I'm Ed Berliner. Until we meet again, rock on, true believers. See ya.
You're still here?
Are you not entertained?
It's over.
All right, hey. All right, good job, guys. Let's just not come in tomorrow. Let's just take a day.
Go home.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Go.
That's all, folks.